There's a new ruling from Quebec's rental board, the TAL, that's kind of shaking up that long-standing issue of pets in apartments. And I know this issue has come up before because we've talked about it here on the show at least a couple of times. But this time around, the tribunal ruled that a blanket no pets clause in a lease is not automatically enforceable, especially if the landlord can show that the animal is causing real harm or serious inconvenience. So, what does this mean going forward? I'm not sure. We'll try to find out. Felix Marois is a community organizer with the Bureau d'Animation et Information Logement. He is on the line. Felix, thank you for the time. So from your perspective, what does this mean?
So this is, first of all, this is good news, but I want to get something straight. This doesn't mean if you have such a clause in your lease that you can go out today and get a pet. This is, for the moment, this is just one decision by a judge saying that in her interpretation of the law, this is an abusive clause. It's not a legal change quite yet. So for now, this is mainly an argument future tenants could use if they have similar clauses in their lease.
Now, I guess my question would be, what if you originally had a lease that you had signed and it had a clause in it for no pets? As you're suggesting, that doesn't mean based on this decision, you just said to run out, get a pet, and then you're okay. Each case would have to be raised individually to the TAL? Is that the idea now going forward?
So unless there's an actual legal change in the civil code, each case would have to be brought individually in front of the TAL. So there's still risk. Like, just because this decision determined that it's a right to have pets and there's no, you can't terminate the lease because of this, doesn't mean the same logic would apply in every case.
Okay.
When we go further into this specific case, like you stated, there's no harm. There's no, the dog and the cat weren't bothering the neighbors. Mm-hmm. There's never been any damage to the apartment. And also the person involved had like doctor's notes stating that these animals were good for their mental health, for their physical health. So this is a specific situation. We consider this is a step in the right direction, but this doesn't automatically mean that it's now illegal to prevent tenants from having pets.
Okay, so for tenants listening, don't take this to mean you can go ahead and do whatever you want to do in terms of getting a pet. Even if this was, and I understand this, as you said, it would have to be a change, right? A provincial law would have to come into effect if it was going to. That would say if you have a pet, you should be allowed to go and rent anywhere you want to rent. Are you expecting that will happen? Is that the next step in here?
Well, it could be the next step if we had a government that cared more about the interests of tenants and landlords. But over the last 2 years, this has not at all been the case. So I wouldn't be expecting any legislative changes in the upcoming months, but who knows what could happen in the next 2 years.
Was there anything in this ruling by the TAL, by the way, with respect to landlords, or just simply the fact that, you can't just say, a no pet clause in this particular case is not enforceable?
So it does recognize that if there's an actual harm to the landlord or to the neighbors, there still are recourses. Even if you do have a lease that allows you to have animals, if your dog barks nonstop or your animals are damaging to the apartment, the landlord still has legal recourses to try to get reimbursements or prevent your animal from bothering your neighbors. Yeah. So landlords have rights. Even if you're allowed to keep an animal in your apartment, the animal can't cause issues. So this decision does reiterate these rights, but saying that a blanket forbidding animals is abusive, and this considers that pets are not property, but they are parts of the family. And this is a fundamental element of your life to your right to privacy, to have a pet.
Okay. Felix, I appreciate the time. I want to hit the other end of the story from the Landlords Association. Martin Messier is on the line. So, Martin, you heard what he had to say. You heard the ruling, obviously, yesterday. What's your reaction, as far as landlords are concerned here?
Well, for us, it's a difficult situation. Of course, we not only for landlords but for tenants as well. So we received many calls in the past few hours that tenants were concerned about that ruling. So most of the time, the tenants are the first one to ask us if we have an no-pet policy because they want to make sure that it won't be disturbed. And I want to reiterate the fact that the pet is never the problem. It's always the pet owner that creates a problem by not taking care of the pet properly. So a dog by itself is not the cause of the problem. The fact that he's left alone, he barks all the time or he does his business and when the pet owner does not pick up after the dog. So those are the situations that would render the situation uncomfortable for the other tenants in the building. For the landlord, of course, it's a serious difficulty to manage those issues because you have to go with the tribunal administratif du logement, wait there, and you have unsatisfied customer that are complaining about that pet, and possibly damages if the fact that the pet owner is really not taking care of the dog or the cat. We even in some situation we've seen cats creating damage to the unit because they were left alone for such a long time that they were doing their business on the floors. So it is certainly a case for concern. If we cross that with the fact that we're forbidden to ask for a security deposit, it is a burden that is complicated to manage.
So let me get to that because I wasn't exactly sure how that works. We know you can't ask as a landlord for a security deposit. But in the event that there is someone who rents and has a pet and the pet has caused some damage for a kid, let's say physical damage, floor, whatever it happens to be, and the tenant's lease ends and they're gone, what recourse does the landlord have?
So we have to apply for damages at the tribunal administratif du logement. So we wait for that case to be heard, probably more than a year. And then we have a decision that we need to execute. So we need to find the tenant, get a bailiff, try to seize bank accounts, salaries, or movables. So it's not an easy, it's far from an easy task. So what we're seeing, and we've been asked by landlords to facilitate that, so to make sure that the pet owner is taking care of his pet and will show sign that he will assume responsibility and do what he has to do as a pet owner. A security deposit is certainly a step in the right direction. So, but at the time being, we don't even have that.
Is this something, and obviously, as the last gentleman said, Felix Marois, if this is now going to move on to the next step, which is the government, he wasn't too optimistic that it would. If this has to go to the government, because again, this is just a decision from the rental board. This is not law. This is, as you said, one particular case. What would you want the government to do?
Well, I think it should remain the landlord decision to decide whether or not in this building, as far as he needs to assume the risk and management issue, to decide if he allows pet or not in the building. We already have a lot of landlords accepting pet. I think that number will raise if we grant them the possibility to ask for a security deposit. So I don't think this would be an issue anymore.
And do you have any idea or any, kind of hint from the government that this is something they're willing to consider? I mean, this has been discussed now for a while.
Well, we've been asking for this. It's been discussed for a while, but since there were no intention on their part at that point in time to forbid us to use that disposition. Now, if they change their mind on this, of course, we hope that there will be a change in their point of view if they decide to enforce this from a legal standpoint. That's by putting in a law that they will be open to some rules that we can implement, because depending on the type of building, depending on the type of animal, so there are many things that needs to be set forward if we are to do this, but. At this point in time, we don't know what will happen, but part of the solution is certainly a security deposit, not to withdraw that possibility from the landlord to be able to exclude pet in the building, but to make sure that we have more landlords willing to accept pets.
So I should point out there's no imperative on the government to either decide to do this, address it one way or the other. They could just decide to, let the TAO handle this going forward on every individual case brought forward, right? So it's not as if nothing is necessarily going to change.
You're right. So we don't know how things will unfold. We have one decision. We'll see how the courts will react in the future. Will that decision be followed or not? So that remains to be seen.
Okay. But can I just ask then, with respect to this deposit, the security deposit, when you have a pet, would landlords from your position be very happy if that was the only thing included? What else might need to change, or is that enough?
For landlords, the fact that there would be a possibility for a security deposit would raise the number by 40% of the landlords. We would have 40% more landlords willing to accept pets in their building. So that's why I'm saying if we have that, I don't think we need to look for something else. All
right. Mr. Messier, appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Luke Wilson. Join me each week for Film Never Lies. Since retiring from the NFL, I've had a lot on my mind, and now I've got my own show. So if you're tired of lazy takes, if you want honest conversations, join us each week. Film Never Lies, available on all TSN platforms and the iHeartRadio app.